I think about him a lot, what he would be doing today if he would have children, where he would be, would he even be living here in London.
Stephen Lawrence was murdered in a racist attack on the 22nd of April 1993. His friend Duwayne Brooks was with him that night, but has never spoken about it at length until now.
They did not want to accept that we were two innocent black boys.
5 suspects were arrested over the murder, but they were all initially cleared. David Norris and Gary Dobson were given life sentences for the murder in 2012. The other 3, Luke Knight and brothers Neil and Jamie Acortt, have not been convicted of the crime. A 6th suspect, Matthew White, was identified last week.
I have always maintained from that night there were 6 members of that gang.
Mr. Brooks is speaking out after it was announced 4 Met Police detectives will not face charges over their handling of the inquiry. This is what he had to say.
Before they ran across the road at us, they called us niggers.
And did that cause fear within you or fury within you?
Fear. Fear. Standing near a bus stop, waiting for a bus in Eltham, in a place in London that was known for racism. It was fear. I was scared. I was worried. I was in a panic. I was asking the police what's taking so long for the ambulance to arrive. I kept questioning them on why they couldn't just put him in the back of the car and take him to the hospital, which was 2 or 3 minutes drive up the road. It was a horrible evening, a horrible evening. They tried to kill the both of us. And it's sad that even 30 years on, the police have forgotten that I was under attack too. The RPC have forgotten, and the CPS have forgotten. After the murder, we were expecting arrests to be immediate. 1 week went by, then 2 weeks went by, and then never arrest. And now I was frightened for my life because the rumors that were going around were that these thugs had friends in the police. For weeks, I couldn't sleep because it was that fear of being set up by the police. The police tried their best to first change my mind on what we were called. They did not want to accept that there was a racial slur. But also, they did not want to accept that we were 2 innocent black boys just waiting for a bus at the bus stop. Their views were, we must have done something to preempt the attack. Stephen and I were close friends. We went to the same school. We were in the same class. We spent lots of time together as we got older. And we just had a normal, great relationship. I think about him a lot, what he would be doing today if he would have children, where he would be, would he even be living here in London. After Stephen had collapsed, I was panicking. I didn't know what to do. There was a phone box across the road. I ran there. I dialed 999. But I became confused because the address label in the phone box was showing the incorrect address. But then a couple of minutes after that, somebody pulled up who I now know to be a police officer who was off duty. He went in and continued the call, and I was just waiting for the ambulance to arrive. I have always maintained from that night there were 6 members of that gang. And I will maintain today that the decision, in my opinion, to label Matthew White a witness was a deliberate act of sabotage. If you go back and look at the descriptions that I gave and those at the bus stop gave, you will see those descriptions match Matthew White to a T. If Matthew White had been put before us, myself and the other witnesses, on an ID parade, we all would have picked him out. I would have then expected him to be brought before a court, the evidence gathered by a competent investigative team, and there should have been convictions back in 1993 for the murder of Stephen Lawrence and the attempted murder of myself. I had seen 6 people, that's in my first statement, and I've maintained that there were 6 attackers from day one.
And never changed your story?
Never changed. At the time, I did not see any knives. There was one suspect who did have an iron bar in his hand, and that iron bar he used to hit Stephen with. It's my understanding that a scaffold pole was found by the police, but to date, they have not done any DNA testing. So it's also my understanding too that Matthew White, the 6th suspect, was a scaffolder at that time. I've always felt that there is a special relationship between the police, the CPS, and currently the IOPC, where victims are never put first. I don't think that we can ever believe any of the reports from the CPS or from the IOPC or from the police until we have those officers who were involved in the first initial investigation cross-examined on their decisions. This will never go away. The fact that the suspects can still be getting on with their life, the police officers who sabotaged, in my opinion, sabotaged the case, can be getting on with their life. For me, this doesn't end. Because of how the police approached me in the interview on the night, refusing to just accept what I was saying was the truth, I knew from then that I had to do whatever I could to ensure that I was a successful person in life. If I didn't, and say, for instance, the stereotype of becoming a drug dealer or a gangster, it would have been used to sully his name today. And as we know, there is nobody on this earth that could say anything negative about Stephen. My feelings were, yes, a national newspaper has come out of the starting blocks and said, you guys, you're the murderers, prove that you're not. It's like a game of baseball. You got 3 people on the bases, it's the last ball, and you hit that home run. You knock that ball out of the park, and that's exactly what the Daily Mail did. It was a you to the police, a you to the CPS, and a you to the establishment. I have always done whatever I needed to do to try and get justice for Stephen. I remember at the Old Bailey, the months before, I was with my dad in Jamaica. He was unwell, but he was always insisting that I need to go to the trial. I need to go to the trial. And I would say to him, but I need to make sure you're okay first. And his final response was, no, you need to go back to that trial. You need to get justice for Stephen. The day before the trial at the Old Bailey, he died, but I was still there. I remember the judge saying to me, do I want to wait 2 or 3 days to come back? And I just said to him, no, this is something I have to do now, and I'm ready and I'm prepared. And I gave my evidence, all my evidence on that day.
And how did you feel when Dobson and Norris were convicted?
I was happy, but it's not the end. It wasn't just Norris and Dobson involved. We know White was involved, and we know who the other suspects are too.